매직트리하우스 number 23, Twister on Tuesday. Chapter 1, Tuesday. Jack opened his eyes. Sunlight streamed through his window. Tuesday, he whispered. Morgan's note had told him and Annie to come back to the 매직트리하우스 on Tuesday. He could hardly wait to find out where she was sending them today. Jack scrambled out of bed. He threw on his clothes. He packed his notebook and pencil into his backpack. Then he headed into the hall. Jack bumped into Annie. She was dressed in jeans and a t-shirt. Tuesday, they both whispered. Together, they hurried down the stairs. Mom, Dad, we are going out for a few minutes, Jack shouted. Don't you want breakfast first? His dad called from the kitchen. When we get back, said Annie. They rushed out the front door. They ran down the street in the bright summer sunlight. A warm wind gently shook the trees as Jack and Annie headed into the Frog Creek woods. Soon they came to the tallest tree in the woods. The 매직트리하우스 waited for them in the high branches. Jack and Annie grabbed the rope ladder and climbed up. Inside the shady tree house, the note from Morgan was still on the floor. Dear Jack and Annie, Camelot is in trouble. To save the kingdom, please find these 4 special kinds of writing for my library. Something to follow, something to send, something to learn, something to lend. Thank you, Morgan. Okay, said Jack. We have the first writing, something to follow. He picked it up, list from the civil war. And we have the second, said Annie. Something to send. She picked up letter from the Revolutionary War. Now we need the third, said Jack. Something to learn. No problem, said Annie. She grabbed a book lying in the corner. I hope we are not going to another war. Jack and Annie looked at the cover. It showed a field of tall green grass. The title was Life on the Prairie. The prairie, said Annie. We already went to the prairie the time we met Black Hawk. Yeah, said Jack, remembering their adventure with the Native American boy. He opened the book and turned to a picture of an old-fashioned train crossing the prairie. Oh, he said, I get it. Trains crossed the prairie after the pioneers came. When we went to the prairie before, the Native Americans were the only people who lived there. So we must be going to pioneer time, said Annie. I think so, said Jack. He pointed at the picture that showed the train crossing the prairie. I wish we could go there, he said. The breeze picked up. The wind started to blow. The treehouse started to spin. It spun faster and faster. Then everything was still, absolutely still. Chapter 2, Signs of Life. Jack opened his eyes. He was wearing pants with suspenders and a shirt with the sleeves rolled up. In place of his backpack was a leather bag. Annie was wearing a long dress and a sunbonnet. I like my hat, she said. It'll keep the sun off my face. Yeah, except the sun's not shining, said Jack. He and Annie looked out the window. The sky was cloudy. The treehouse had landed in a small grove of trees near a creek. Beyond the trees was a wide, open prairie. Green grass and wild flowers swayed in a chilly wind. In the distance, a train puffed across the prairie. Sparks of fire came out of its smoke stack. Huge clouds of black smoke billowed into the gray sky. Wow, said Jack. He looked at the picture of the train in their book and read. After the Civil War, the U.S. government built the railroads to link the eastern and western parts of the country. By the 1870s, steam engine carried people across the Kansas Ferry. Jack pulled out his notebook and wrote, 1870s, trains across Kansas. Let's get going, said Annie. We have to find the special rating for Morgan. She started down the ladder. Jack packed his things in his leather bag and climbed down after her. When he stepped onto the ground, Jack looked toward the west. The train was gone. Only a thin trail of smoke floated across the sky. That train was cool, said Jack. Yeah, and so is that, said Annie. She pointed it in the other direction. Far away in the distance, a line of covered wagons rolled through the rippling grass. Their white coverings billowed in the breeze. Jack pulled out the research book. He found a picture of the wagon train. He read aloud. Wagons were the most common way for families to travel west. They could carry clothes, tools, food, and water. A line of wagons was called a wagon train. The white cloth coverings over the wagons also made them look like sailing ships or schooners. For this reason, covered wagons were sometimes called prairie schooners. Jack looked at the wagons again. They did look like ships sailing across a rippling green sea. He wrote in his notebook, covered wagon, prairie schooners. Let's get a closer look, said Annie. She took off across the grass. Jack put away his things and ran after her. As they ran, the wind began to blow harder. The clouds overhead grew darker. Wait! Wait, Jack finally called to Annie. We never catch up to it. They both stopped running. Panting, they watched the wagon train vanish over the horizon. Jack took a deep breath. What now? He said. They looked around. All Jack could see was the distant grove of trees with a treehouse. With the train and wagon train gone, there were no sign of life anywhere, no pioneer cabins, no Native American teepees. How can you find the special writing? Said Jack. There's nothing out here. Oh, yeah, said Annie. What's that? She pointed to a lush pipe sticking out from the top of a small hill. Streaming from the pipe was a column of black smoke. Oh, man, said Jack. That's definitely a sign of life. Chapter 3. One-room schoolhouse. Let's check it out, said Annie. She and Jack walked up the little hill. At the top, they saw that the rusty pipe was riding out of a wooden roof. They walked around to the other side of the hill. Beneath the wooden roof was a door. The door seemed to open into the hill itself. What is this? said Annie. Let's find out, said Jack. He studied their research book until he found a black and white photograph. The photograph showed the same hill with a door. Jack read aloud. Since the prairie did not have many trees, wood was hard to find, so pioneers often made their houses out of sawed bricks, which are blocks of earth cut out of the prairie. Sometimes a sawed house was dug out of the side of a hill. It was called a dugout. Jack pulled out his notebook. He wrote, sawed bricks, blocks of earth. Dugout, sawed house carved out of hillside. Then Jack read more to Annie. Tornadoes or twisters are common on the prairie. So many dugouts had A storm cellar was like a love basement below the ground. During a twister, a storm cellar is the safest place to be. Wow, maybe we'll see a twister, said Annie. I hope not, said Jack. Then he read on. A pioneer family built this dugout for a home. When they moved, the dugout became a schoolhouse. The schoolhouse had only one room. It also had a storm cellar beneath it. Jack quickly wrote. Some dugouts have storm cellars. Hey, this is the place, said Annie. Jack looked up from his writing. What place? He asked. Where's the best place to find our special writing? Something to learn, asked Annie. Jack smiled. Oh, school, he said. Annie ran to the wooden door and locked it loudly. A moment later, the door creaked open. A girl peeked out. Her hair was in a tight bun as if she were a grown-up, but she didn't look more than 16 or 17 years old. Hi, I'm Annie, said Annie. This is my brother Jack. The girl opened the door wider. Hello, Jack and Annie, she said. I'm your teacher, Miss Neely. You are the teacher? Said Jack. Miss Neely seemed way too young to be a teacher. Yes, she said, smiling. Come in. You are late.